I'm Donald MacKinnon. I'm the Development Manager at Urras Oighreachd Chàrlabhaigh, Carloway Estate Trust in the Isle of Lewis.
My name is Noreen MacDonald and I was the Secretary of the Trust from the beginning when the steering group started.
My name is Kenny MacLennan and I chair Carloway Estate Trust. I'm a local resident here. I was born and brought up at Carloway, which is on the estate. Lived there all my life except for 3 years when I studied at Edinburgh. Came back home. I just want to be here. I love being here and I croft here.
We're an 11,500 acre crofting estate. It was purchased by the community back in 2015, and since then the Trust has been managing the estate on behalf of the local community.
The whole process with us started in about 2011, and one of our community councillors, a well-known gentleman called Donald MacDonald, who was our councillor at the time and a previous convener of Colonial and Shear, came to our community council one evening and suggested, why don't we buy Carloway Estate?
I think, well, we had a public meeting and that's when it first started, when people became aware of the possibility of a community buyout. And obviously hearing the views of other people, and there were enough people that were interested in taking it forward, and that's when the steering group was formed.
There was a bit of unrest, first of all, whether this was a thing to do or just because others had done it, should we be doing it? But then we discussed at our community council level. Both community councils decided, yes, if it's an easy solution and if the current estate owner is willing to sell, then we'll look at it further. But if he's not willing to sell, we had decided that we weren't going to follow the route at all and we would just park it. So the existing owner at the time was a gentleman called Kenny MacLennan, who lived in Stoneway, who had inherited the estate really through family membership down through the years. And he was well known to some of us and well known to Alec, and Alec approached him informally asking if he would be willing to sell Carloway Estate. And his response was yes, he would be willing to sell the estate as long as it was a community purchase.
I think people were aware of other community buyouts, especially in Ness, that had gone through so successfully. But I think with the steering group, the one thing we were determined was that it wouldn't be a difficult buyout, that it would have to be one where the landlord was willing to sell, because we'd obviously heard stories with other places with other problems, and that's really the main reason that it went ahead. The landlord seemed to be willing to sell to the community and he was happy to do that. So.
Following on from the fact that the estate could be available as long as it was a community buyout, we formed a steering group in 2012 that had about 10 people on it at the time. I was elected to chair that, and things moved fairly quickly from that point on. The steering group then approached different funding agencies, approached evaluation, and an interesting decision with regards to valuation. We had agreed with Ken Galloway that the district valuer would be the person that would value the estate for us, and whatever figure the district valuer came up with, that would be the figure that we would both agree on. So there was no toing and froing. Tied on with that, which was a bit of an afterthought, was the foreshore, and we approached Crown Estate, who also sold us the foreshore along the entire estate, which was probably one of the first estates to be doing that at the time. The whole thing progressed very well, and on the 1st of May 2015 we purchased Carloway Estate and called it Carloway Estate Trust. We had our first employee starting with us in July of that year, which was Sally Reynolds, who I must say really transformed this place.
Since taking ownership of the estate in 2015, the Trust's taken forward a number of different community projects. Over the years we've had projects focusing on fuel poverty and energy efficiency. In more recent years we've had more of a focus on tourism and how we can manage to generate more revenue for the Trust from tourist related activities. So we purchased the visitor centre at the Broch, and we're now expanding the provision of services there to try and make sure that this community benefits as much as it can from visitors to the area, but also that the visitors that come here have a great experience and enjoy visiting the estate and visiting the area.
In the last 2 years or so, we've acquired the old community workshop at Urras, which we are hoping to look at developing and it becoming a community workshop, and with it that there will be a growing project for polyclubs around it. The Doonbroch is our main asset, and that has to be what we have to think of as our main income generator for the years ahead. We're looking at forming very strong partnerships with the neighbouring estates, Bargas and Golson, and we are looking at a community wind farm project with them, which would certainly help us because we can't locate that on our own ground. We would have a share in it at somewhere else.
Particularly the way people have come together from both communities, from Carloway and from Urras Oighreachd, and obviously the other villages as well, because we do go as far as Garnhain. So it is good the way people have come together, and I think there have definitely been benefits in that respect.
And crofting's always been really important to Carloway Estate Trust. I'm a crofter myself, and many of the directors on the board and over the years have been crofters too. So making sure that we have a close relationship with the crofters on the estate, with the grazings committees and with the clerks has always been a top priority for the Trust. We can't do very much on the land if we don't have the crofters on side. So when it comes to some recent peatland restoration projects that we've undertaken in the township of Knock, we've worked with the crofting tenants, with that particular Common Grazings Committee to take forward that project, and it's been very successful for all parties involved.
What I hope to see for Carloway Estate Trust is that our young people will start taking an interest in the workings of the Trust, put themselves forward for election as being directors onto the board. And as long as things are going fine and we have development manager in place and some members of staff that keep the estate going, the work of a director at Carloway Estate Trust is not hugely onerous. So I would hope that our younger generation would see the importance of the estate, which I think they do, but that they would get more involved and put themselves forward for election and get us back to, you know, the election days of the early days when we had vibrant elections with loads more people than places available, which is really what we want to be seeing. But I think the Trust is just so important for the area. I always feel that as long as things are going okay, people think everything is fine. So we must be doing something right because we're not getting any bad press, but that's really not the way to look at it. We need to be more progressive, and it's finding this situation of being financially self-sufficient is huge, and then taking that to the next stage where we can have surplus money in there to develop things within our estate and to offer young people maybe startup grants, maybe jobs that, and the fact is that we have jobs at Carloway Estate Trust that would not be here had it not been for a community buyout.
Well, the big priority for Carloway Estate Trust now is to try and reach financial sustainability. We've struggled to achieve that, so we have a number of different income sources, and getting those to all add up to enough to keep the Trust afloat is always a challenge. And that's the priority going forward, is to maximise those income generating assets. We're very excited about the prospect of renewables in the future, so we're working in partnership with Bargas Estate Trust and Golson Estate Trust to develop a joint renewables project. which, if it comes off, will be, at the moment anyway, the biggest community-owned renewable project in the country, and will give the Trust that financial security going forward. We're also looking to the commercial developments taking place in the area, including an offshore wind farm, where we're hoping that work that we've done to negotiate a community benefit deal, if that project happens, will make sure that the community here is set to benefit from it substantially.